All right, welcome to Keeping It Real. We are the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I am your guide and host through the show. And today is a truly unique episode out of the 730 plus we've done. This one is the first time I've ever had this particular conversation. And as you're starting to listen to this, if you think this isn't for you, I assure you it is, because we are going to be talking about two of the most important things that not only brokerages need, but also teams and even individuals. We're going to talk about recruiting and retention, specifically around real estate agents. And who we're talking today is Jason Caspert, and he is part of the Courted team. You may or may not be familiar with Courted. They are the very preeminent sort of most forward-thinking company, prop tech company in real estate around recruiting and retention. There's other companies, but they just don't even compete, because what they provide is this real-time data, and actually like they think about it from a recruiting and retention perspective. So they're not just sending, here's the data of all the agents in the area. They're like, here's who you need to be talking to, and here's what you need to say to them. It's an incredible piece of technology, and we're going to talk about it today. But let me tell you more about Jason. So Jason specifically, he is the director of sales at Courted, which is an AI-powered recruiting and retention platform for residential real estate brokerages. His he partners specifically with more than 1,300 brokerages. Like, everybody uses Courted. I use Courted. Everybody I know uses it, because nationwide, it is just the very best platform by a million miles. But he works with all the major brands, helping them recruit more efficiently, retain top talent, and drive profitable growth through data and predictive insights. He holds Bachelor of Business Admin from Wisconsin School of Business and University of Wisconsin in Madison. Outside of work, you can find Jason at Madison Square Garden, exploring NYC, or cooking his favorite meal. My brother-in-law, Jason, his father ran the concessions at MSG for like 50 years.
No
before
way.
he passed away.
No
Yeah.
way.
So my brother-in-law grew up getting to go. They lived in Forest Hills, Queens. And he got to go to like everything. It's just
There's nothing like the Garden, whether it's a Knicks game or a Billy Joel or even just a random comedian. There's nothing like it. It's great. It's great.
I totally agree. So yeah, you're obviously in New York, along with, I don't know if the entire Courted team is there, but certainly a lot of you guys are there. And let's first, before we get into it, I want to set the stage for the audience. So again, if you're an individual agent thinking, I don't recruit, I don't need to retain, you still want to listen to this, because this may help you when you're evaluating your own brokerage, and it'll actually give you some insight on how other firms recruit, and you can actually use that to your advantage. And so we've got a lot of great information that we're going to talk about today. But Jason, yeah, once again, welcome to the show.
Thanks, DJ. Really, really appreciate you having me. Been looking forward to this all week. I'm happy it's finally Thursday.
Well, I appreciate that. I always assume people are like, I got to do that interview with that guy, but I do appreciate the enthusiasm, and we're super grateful to have you. You guys have completely changed the way I look for talent for other agents, and I know you're changing. 1,300 people, 1,300 other brokerages already use you, and I'm sure that grows every month. So I know what you guys do, but the audience might not. So tell us about Courted.
Yeah, sure thing. So we're here out of New York. We're a group of data scientists, designers, and real estate professionals. In essence, what we do is we tear apart MLS data every evening and piece it back together. So you, as a brokerage leader, a team leader, or recruiter, or manager, whomever you may be, can very easily understand who to speak to today, why it's important to have a conversation with them, and then we'll actually tell you what to say with a couple of AI companions sprinkled in there. A lot of the folks that we work with, it oftentimes is very time consuming to recruit, or they don't know when one of their own agents maybe had the highest listing of their career, or their first closing as a part of their brokerage, or maybe they just had a decent sized deal expire, right? So we provide that level of insights all day, every day, and just a click or two. It's pretty easy to take those insights, turn them into actions, and it's fun. We've been building it for now 3 years or so, and it's been quite the journey.
It's almost remarkable that nobody thought to do this, because there is other recruiting software that just will give you data, right? And it's sort of shocking that no one thought to do what you guys are doing, which is amazing because you really don't have competition, and that's an incredible place to be from a business perspective. Because I have tried all the other software providers, and I even have subscribed to all of them, and there's not even that many of those. But you guys are just in a totally different league. And one other thing that you do that I want to make sure is very, very clear, and this is particularly important for people that have teams or are looking to recruit or retain, is that Corded has a predictive engine, and it actually will tell you, I think this person does want to leave. Because the biggest challenge as a recruiter is you don't know who wants to leave their firm, right? There's no super obvious indicator that, even just looking at, if I look at the MLS data, it doesn't really tell me. I mean, I have to figure out, I'd have to do the math on, is this person up or down in their business? And Corded looks at a lot of different variables. It's like their secret sauce. And just like Target can oftentimes tell if somebody's pregnant before they actually know that they're pregnant, you guys have a sort of a similar prediction, where the biggest challenge for me as a recruiter is when I call somebody, if they're not looking to move, there's not a whole lot I can really do, because they're just going to go, I'm happy at my current firm. But you guys actually say, this person we think is interested in moving. And from a recruiting perspective, that's amazing. Also from a retention perspective, that's amazing, because we need to know which one of our agents are maybe they are thinking about leaving, and you guys have an algorithm to kind of predict that.
Yeah, and DJ, you know this more than anyone, right? It's always the right time for you to be recruiting an agent. But
Yes.
one thing that we do really well is actually recognize when it's the right time for the agent. Maybe they've sold through their inventory. Maybe they're outperforming their split, right? Maybe they've seen a couple of their peers who they've worked with forever just leave the brokerage that they're at, right? And it all is sprinkled into the AI and the algorithms that we have. But it's funny, for many of the folks that we work with, it's all about me, which is great, and I'm all for it. But when it's the right time for the agent, that's when they actually listen to what you have to say, show up to the appointments, and can actually comprehend the value that you provide for them, relative to when they have 5 houses on the market and they're onboarding a new team member.
I can't tell you how often I call agents and they're so impressed that I know information about them that maybe even their own managing broker doesn't know, as far as some of the stats, right? Like they'll know, oh yeah, so and so they might know how many listings they have, but they don't know, because there's no real other way to figure this out unless you built your own engine, that like, oh, they're about to cross over 6 million this year, and that's their highest they've ever done. And in fact, they got close to it 2 years ago. So all of a sudden I have a conversation piece like, hey man, you're about to hit 6 million. I think that's your biggest year ever, right? And and we get to talk about that, and we also get to talk about, so I did this just the other day. There was a person I was looking to recruit, and she had a listing on the market. It was her only active listing, and it was back in December like 20th. And I was like, wait, this is February 19th. This should still not be active. And so I started looking at it, and I noticed a couple of things, because what's so cool in Corded, you can see all the information. It's not like I had to go to the MLS. It's right there. And I went, oh, wow, here's an opportunity for me to give her some advice about, hey, I might change this or that in your listing description, and some of the, different variables she could adjust. Obviously, it's probably a price issue, but I was able to have a good conversation that and I even asked her, I said, just because she is going to come over, I said, just out of curiosity, did your own brokerage ever say, hey, I know this has been sitting on the market for a few months, you may want to do this or that? She's like, oh no. She's like, nobody ever even noticed that it was on the market. So all of a sudden now I'm adding value to somebody. I'm not having to pitch our brokerage. All of a sudden she's like, wait, who are you? Why are you doing this? And I was able
it's
to,
interesting too, right? There's so many details that are, call it buried in the data sometimes, that even in that example, we have a lot of folks that we work with who will take that particular listing and they'll say, well, you have a listing, it's $1 million and it's in Raleigh, North Carolina. Just 2 or 3 clicks, what they can surface is the agents in their own office or elsewhere who've actually represented more buyers than anyone else in the last 12 months in Raleigh. Yeah. So when you're acting as the broker for someone who's actually not at your firm yet, to, hey, listen, I'm looking at 5 agents that are a part of our family. They've all done at least 4 deals on the buy side in Raleigh between 800K and 1.4. Is it cool if I send them your number? Did that work for you? It's amazing how far that goes.
Wow, I never thought to do that. That is a brilliant strategy. and then the other piece of it has to do with retention, because we know that people like me are calling agents at every firm all the time. People are getting those calls. And, it's important because as independent contractors, and I suppose there are some firms that, Redfin comes to mind, that do have salaried people. So it's not as easy for them just to leave, but everyone else can leave at any time from any brokerage and join, probably, if they're a good agent, pretty much any firm they want to. So the opportunities are always there to lose agents. And what you guys provide is amazing for our retention team, because they now go in and say, wow, we didn't realize that Corded thinks this person might be looking to switch. And now all of a sudden we can reach out with development opportunities. And that's really the cool thing too, as a recruiter, is when I call people at other firms, I can see that you guys, you'll say, we think this person has a high or mid or a low likelihood of leaving. And if it's high, I want to dig in and find out what's going wrong in their business. Doesn't mean their business is down, but you guys have flagged them in some way. And you're like, we're seeing something that maybe doesn't seem like they're going to want to stay there. Because you do look at attrition. You look at when brokerages lose agents and when the managing broker leaves and what happens then. And you look at all this data, and you just have, it has made my life like 1,000 times easier, probably. It doesn't mean I've recruited 1,000 times more agents yet, but it has certainly given me, it impresses people. I'd say that's the biggest thing, is if you want to impress another agent or even save your own agents, this software does it. I mean, it's just no two ways about it.
I appreciate the kind words, and for us, it's a double-edged sword. Recruiting is. I've had someone explain to me, recruiting is the chocolate and retention is the broccoli. Right? Retention is the nourishment, and recruiting is the fun part. But oftentimes, when you go to pick up the phone could feel like it's a brick. And if we can make it feel like it's in essence a feather, right? That's where I think we've come into this really unique niche in the market to give people confidence and put them in a comfortable position to know exactly who they're speaking to. And on the internal front, I mean, I work with so many of the folks in leadership throughout the country where they are so dead set every day on having a proactive day. The second they step into their office, they're reacting to 8 million things. So one thing in the design of it, that we've continued to evolve with is, when you have those 5 or 10 minutes when you're drinking your coffee, can you accomplish 80% of what you need to by celebrating your own people, reaching out when someone's got a new listing, right? Knowing that by 9:04, your calendars are out the window. It's going to change. You got 45 agents who are, in essence, needing your help. So it's
you are so right. We have a team here that literally looks at the Corded data for our own agents every day and just sends celebration, even if it's just a text message from us going, hey, we just saw you got a new listing at such and such street, you're amazing, or we just saw you did your biggest deal here, your first deal here. We just look for data points, and you guys tell us exactly what those are, and then we just send out texts, or we call sometimes, because we have 700 agents, so it's tricky for us to call everybody, but we certainly we don't want to be caught by somebody else using Corded, calling our agents, giving them that same compliment. It's like, oh no, we need to do that first. And what's shocking is, I think people use Corded more for the recruiting. I'm sure the really good firms do use it for retention, but I can't tell you how many people I call at really great companies, like legitimate, and I won't mention names, but good firms. And these are good firms, and their own managing brokers aren't doing that to retain, because managing brokers are often told, let's grow. Let's get some new blood in here. And I think the retention piece is almost, in some ways, maybe even more valuable, because it really teaches you how to create a great culture of celebration.
And it's tough too, as a manager or someone in leadership. Again, there's so many things that are unplanned that go on throughout the day. But engaging with your own folks and then acting almost as if you are the leader for someone externally or the broker for someone across the street, it goes such a long way. But oftentimes it can be so time consuming, or you have to think about what to say, or you don't even remember the last time, TJ, maybe I had seen you in the office, right? So having the ability to track and stay organized with that. Oh my God, I haven't seen DJ since Christmas. I got to reach out. It's warming up there, in Chicago. I know he was traveling. What's he up to, right? Those are all things that on a spreadsheet, it doesn't get me wrong, it's great, but it stays stale the second you move to another cell. So we attempt to kind of surface all of the things that are relevant for you so you could accomplish them not only effectively, but also extremely efficiently. So it doesn't take away from everything else you have to do.
Correct. And what's cool about it is this isn't just about recruiting top talent or retaining top talent. You guys have some amazing data that says, okay, if you're a $50 million or more producer, you only probably have a 5% chance of leaving your firm, because odds are they're taking really good care of you because you're very important to them. But what's really cool is this huge opportunity in the middle, where you guys have this stat that's 20% of agents who are between 1 and 5 million. They move at 4 times the level. They move at the 20%. So if I only called those people, odds are 1 out of every 5 calls might be somebody who's interested, if I want to play in that 1 to 5 million space, and I do. So that actually is really great. But what do you think that those statistics really speak to? Like, tell me a little bit about, you talk to brokerages about recruiting. Kind of what's the state of recruiting right now in real estate?
Yeah, I think it's a bias towards action and being the first one to either celebrate or provide TLC and act human to the people that are in your neighborhood or in your county or wherever it is that you're looking to expand. I think a lot of people are leaning into social media. But once an agent has put something on social media, not that it's too late for a broker, but now the world knows, right? And a lot of times we use analogies all the time over here. If you could be the first one to give someone an attaboy, right? Hey, good job. How are you? What's going on? They remember that you're the first one to do that time and time and time again. And we're data people, we're numbers people. And to your point of that, 1 in 5 moving, I think that's absolutely pertinent and extremely, extremely valuable. But I think another thing to think through, right, of that group of producers who move more frequently than anyone else, it also represents the largest percentage of sales volume in the country, right?
Right.
So you're not only fishing within the waters that people move all the time, but it's also the largest ocean that you could fish in. So,
And the most profitable one in most cases.
I was going to wait for you to say that. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And, especially with the changing landscape of the brokerage models and taking a look at the market, I was looking at something the other day that January was the lowest transaction count in the country since, what was it, 2009, 2008?
Yeah.
It was crazy, right? So, the importance of staying in front of people who are productive is I would say at the most critical junction that it's been in a really long time. And sure, markets fluctuate. Some folks by the beach, they wait for March because that's when people want to buy, right? In the snow towns, people are there already. But I think there's a unique storm forming that maybe has already formed, and I could be biased here, that to sustain where you are or to grow, you got to hold on to the people you have, and you have to recruit more, because that's how your transaction count's going to go up as a brokerage.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. You have described Corded as the Moneyball of real estate recruiting. I think that is so accurate. For people who are listening who either do recruiting and they've been doing it the same way for 15 years or so, what are they missing by not using some of this data?
I think the biggest component of it is why today, right? I kind of talked about earlier, why is today the right time for the agent, not for you? You could have the perfect in with an agent who is going to come over. But if that agent just secured 3 listings and they're going to see a healthy commission check maybe in 3, 4, 5 weeks, the likelihood of them moving over and leaving some money on the table is relatively unlikely, right? So when you use that phrase Moneyball, I think of, I'm a baseball guy, right? How could you get on base? Getting on base is having productive conversations. And how do you run the bases? You get them into the office. You have an appointment set with them. And if you're able to pinpoint when people are not as busy today as maybe they were yesterday or the day before, that's when those conversations are really heard. So what we attempt to do is, no matter what market you're in, be able to speak, of course, eloquently to any agent you want to have a conversation with, but do so at a moment where they're not dealing with 4 contractors. They're not figuring out how to market the couple of listings that they have. They're not part of, say, an office that's continuously bringing on agents and providing a lot of resources, so to speak. In essence, you catch them while they're quiet. And my trick is always call them between 10 and 11 and between 4 and 5. Why is that? They're usually in the car, and their meetings are at 9, 12, maybe 3 and 6, right? They're picking up their kids. That's always my trick with the data.
Yeah. No, I love that. I'd like to talk about the predictive analytics, and I know you are not going to give away the secret sauce, nor do I want you to, but I would love just the audience to get a few small bites of what some of what your team looks at when they're giving the recommendation or the prediction that this person might want to move. So, like, what are just some of the data points you guys look towards?
Yeah, so we build out lookalike audiences. In essence, we're able to take a look at every agent year over year over the last 20 years and every MLS who moved or who stayed. So, well, why did that happen, right? And then you pinpoint an agent today and say, well, do they more likely resemble someone who stayed or someone who left? I think there's a couple of key indicators. One is what's happening at their office. Is their office maybe losing market share? Or is their office losing agents? Did their broker change over a bit, right? Another aspect of it is I think of it more of a thematic approach. DJ, let's say you spend 3 years at every brokerage you're a part of. You're 8.5 years in the business and
Yeah.
you haven't had a sale since Thanksgiving.
Probably ready to go. Yeah.
Right. And it's difficult to you put those types of details together. That's what we do a really, really good job of in making it simple. So there's about 1,000 data points or so that feed the algorithm, but it's always about timing. Always
Well, I'll
about
I'll
timing.
tell you a little email secret of mine, and then I'll compare that to some courted data that just blows me out of the water. So it took me 15 years. I actually know now how to get into somebody's inbox without hitting spam or promotions. Took me a long time to figure this out, and I'm able to do that. And we have lots and lots of agents that I can put in these sort of a drip campaign of sorts that is not specific to the data you guys provide, just something some sort of general message, not a join our firm, but I usually offer something of value, like, hey, I got this report, I thought you might be interested, let me know if you want it. Anyway, I can get into people's inboxes, and even, which is amazing in and of itself, is I can do that at a large scale. And if I get a 1% response rate, and I'm not pitching anything, I'm not asking them for anything other than a, hey, I might want this, tool that you guys have, which I'll just give them. Maybe 1, maybe 2% if I'm just crushing it that month. But because with your system, your one-to-one emails, they're going to hit inboxes too, and they're going to have data specific to that person. Your AI even tells even writes it for you if you want to use your copy. But you guys get a 10 to 20 times engagement rate for these one-to-one messages versus like what I do, which are these like CRM style campaigns. Even though I hit inboxes, I really do. I'm telling you, I only get 1 to 2% response, and I don't even pitch. Your stuff gets 10 to 20 times that result. It's incredible.
My team might need to learn from you about getting into the inboxes.
I've told them, but it's a little bit of an uncomfortable sort of a conversation. But you guys don't need it because you're going to be hitting their inbox anyway. But most importantly, the difference between what I send and what you send is mine is like, hey, I look at everyone who's done 6 to 8 deals, and I say, okay, what do I think their biggest problem is, and that might be 5,000 agents, and I just say, okay, are you struggling with this? I'm just guessing, right? I don't really know. And then I say, I have this tool that can help you fix it. Happy to send it over to you. No strings attached. And I get maybe 1 to 2% people say, okay, I'll check it out. The rest just ignore it, even though I hit their inbox. Your stuff, the difference is I'm now specifically talking about that one person. And again, I'm not spending much time doing my email system, even though I finally got into people's inboxes. Your system works much better because it's individualized to each person. Nobody wants these general recruiting emails, right? Nobody wants that. And even though mine aren't structured that way, people still know, like, he obviously wants to recruit me, but yours is very different because it really speaks directly to that particular agent. And I don't think there's any other piece of software that does that.
And one thing we learned, right, not to give away all the tricks of the trade, one thing we learned in terms of open rates, a good agent, and I'm sure there are a ton of great agents who listen. You would tell me, DJ, right? We'll open an email where the subject line is just simply the address of a property that they were a part of that deal at some point. They'll at the very least open it, and then the first line is always congratulations.
Yeah.
So what we teach a lot of our partners to do is say, hey, DJ, congrats on 123 Main Street. I heard from our agent, Maria, that she's never worked with anyone who has handled a buyer with such care.
Yep.
How are you having so much success in Algonquin Park. Actually, I'm not surprised, right? And you could say, "Hey, be sarcastic," or "This is how I sound," and getting the open with that subject line, and then the first line being of a congratulatory nature. It's amazing. Simple verbiage can really make a difference.
What I do with is a lot of times I don't email that because I want to call somebody because I think, whatever. I'm a guy with a certain kind of voice. I have a radio show, whatever. So I want them to hear my voice because maybe they listen to my show, but also I know nobody else is calling them, right? Somebody
Yeah.
might be emailing them, but probably not with your information unless they're a courted person. And not every brokerage has you guys yet. And so I know they might be getting that email, but if I can call them with it, I find I get an even better result. And it's incredible. You guys can't make the dials for me, but you can tell me exactly what to say, even if I get a voicemail. And what's so cool now is I can rattle off the stats in a voicemail, and people who are just not answering the phone, they're reading the transcription as it's happening live, right? So they're seeing that I'm referencing exact data from their business. So it's not like, hey, this is DJ, you did this great thing. I can say, oh my gosh, you're doing this, this, and this. And, I would love to learn more about you.
And we've heard so many things. I mean, I have a customer. What they do is they have their managers every morning. They take out their phones and they do like a selfie video, 30 seconds. Hey,
Yeah.
hey, DJ, saw you're doing great in Tampa. I'm with so and so, and just wanted to introduce myself. And they use the script from Corded, so it's always specific to the individual, talks about their stats, and then they just text it to them, where it's like, whoa,
Yep.
I'm getting a video message here with the transcription as well. I've seen people write handwritten notes. I've seen some posts on Instagram. It's crazy. Reddit, you'd never believe. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I've certainly tried that. The thing I realized is, and you're right, video messages they're almost never done unless it's like bomb or Loom or those. But I don't think people respond as well to those. But this idea that I can use my iPhone and take a quick selfie video, hey, you're doing this. I'd love to talk to you. I just want to learn your story. And sending that out really takes the pressure off that agent on that phone call. You actually can get more because you're not asking them for anything necessarily other than to listen to your message. And people are super flattered by that. I think that
Absolutely.
video message is going to be even more utilized by brokers, even people like me. I mean, I'm going to be doing a lot of that. And then I'll be able to check the data. Like, are people messaging me back, or is it better to call? Like, what's cool is I could just try everything because you guys have all the info that I never had before. I had to go to the MLS and look up people and kind of get an idea of what their business was like. But our MLS software isn't that great, personally, in my opinion. And it just doesn't give you that kind of analytics. So I love that you guys have this. So what are some of the mistakes that you think recruiters make when they do get a meeting or when they do engage with somebody? Like, what are some of the things to not do, I guess, if you're a recruiter?
I think that the first piece, people get very eager when they have someone on the hook, jumping right into the pitch,
Yeah.
right? This is why we are the best. This is why we're better than where you're at. This is why we've been around for so long, or we've been growing at X rate, et cetera. I think the pitch lands a lot stronger and can be received in a much more digestible way once you understand who the agent is, what motivates them, where they're looking to go, and what it all means at the end of the day for their goals, say for the end of the quarter, end of the year, 5 years, right? That's when the pitch really lands and can be tailored towards, do they want a community? Do they only care about the money? Do they want to be a part of a large brand, or do they love being a part of an independent? So many folks, they get so excited that someone's going to pick up the phone or jump into their office that they go right into their sales pitch. And at that point, they don't really know much outside of the data on the agent. And I think that's the one thing. People get excited. I'm good with it too. I call it happy years, right? But if you could listen to who the individual is, say on the other side of the Zoom or on this phone or right across the table from you, and then get into your pitch, I think that is a mistake that some people, they get excited and they jump right into why they're the best.
Yeah, it's the first of all, everybody says they have the best amazing training, the greatest support, the best tools. every brokerage says that. And it's like, okay, fine, everyone says that. And you talk a lot about listening, like being a listener versus a talker, because every brokerage has a very similar pitch, right? I mean, maybe one has a cooler tool than the other, maybe one's commission structure is slightly more generous than another. But at the end of the day, like most brokerages offer very similar tool sets, very similar resource sets. And it ultimately comes down to relationships. And so, you have talked a lot about building relationships through listening and not talking. And can you just talk a little bit about how you see that working well in recruiting?
Yeah, for me, the best advice I've ever forgotten. Is, you're not learning anything when you're speaking. When you listen, that's when you can learn. And every brokerage has something unique to offer to
Yeah.
every agent they want to bring on board. So when you understand the pain points of the current situation for an agent, there are hundreds of them. We could be on this podcast for years if we wanted to walk through all of them, right? But if you listen to the one or two things that are relevant, you could use the data, use your personality, and use the culture you've built to help someone on the other side of the table recognize why you might be the best fit for them. Great example of that. I was working with a partner last week, and they had an agent in front of them. They were utilizing our data, and the in essence, prospective agent had said, listen, I've gone down 30% this year. I really can't figure out why. When you look at the data, they had slid down market 20%. They were a great listing agent, but the listings were staying on the market 22 days longer than what they had done the year before. And that 22 days longer was actually a week longer than the average agent at this particular brokerage. So,
Right.
so the pain point was like, hey, I need either more leads or more listings opportunities, or to learn how to secure and harvest my network to do so. And our partner literally just turned the computer around. It's like, hey, when you come back here, or when you come over here, your average sale price is going to go up just by rising tides lift all ships. And instead of spending 52 days on every listing you have, wouldn't it be nice if you only spent 30?
Right.
What do you think about that? And just through listening, sure, using the data and making sure that it was an educated and informed conversation, but never would have gotten that if this individual jumped into the pitch before listening to what this agent had to say.
Yeah, what you're really talking about is solving problems. And every agent, because they have to run so much of their business on their own, it's so many different hats to wear. There's always a problem in everyone's business. There's always a challenge. And Corded often will identify that challenge. And then that's where the brokerage gets to come alive and say, I know how to fix that, versus, hey, here's the tools we offer, because nobody cares. It's all the same tool. It's all the same stuff. So, and I don't mean that in any sort of glib way. Yes, there are brokerages that have really amazing tool sets, and I'm not in any way suggesting that's not true. I'm just saying that's not a very compelling argument when somebody's got an actual problem they just want solved. And you're right. So I love the fact that this really does build a relationship. And I believe that if you can solve problems for realtors, yeah, like you said, let's get you down from 52 days on the market to 30 days. Like, what would that do to your production, right?
Yeah.
Or what would that do to your ability to get even more deals? And now this is now a skill issue, or it's an opportunity for me to teach you something. I know how to get that number down. And that's
this, right? It's not always numbers oriented.
right.
We've seen so many instances where an agent has had their first closing as a part of the brokerage, or their highest listing of their career. They finally broke into that zip code across town that they really wanted to. And when they bring all their agents together at the end of the quarter, they wouldn't recognize the individual. So, it's interesting, right? And to your point of solving problems, it's not always about the numbers. Sometimes it's about a sense of belonging. Sometimes it's about a sense of teamwork and collaboration. Other times it's all about the money. But
Sure.
in figuring out what it is that really matters to the agent, that's where you could have an honest conversation as to whether or not they'd be a fit for you, but also you'd be a fit for them, which I think could be overlooked.
Yeah, I agree. It's rarely about the commission split, in my opinion. A lot of agents will talk about their commission split not being where they'd like it to be. But if it was just commission, and they would all be at firms that offer nearly 100%. And top producers, for the most part, there's exceptions, but for the most part are not at those firms. We're one of those firms. So I would love it if we had all top producers. They don't seem to come to our firm. And it's not because we're not a great firm. There's some value they're seeing at their current firm. They would technically make more money here if they continued on with their same production. And I don't see why that couldn't happen, but they're still not moving here. So it is not, and maybe it's because I need to do a better job, but I don't think so, because I talk to a lot of other firms like us in the country, and we all sort of realize that top agents are in a totally different sort of category, and you have to sort of talk to them in a different way and maybe have a different value proposition. But they're not, so it's not like, oh, I'd make an extra 40 grand by coming over here. That doesn't matter as much to them. They want people to help solve problems. And whether you're a $1 million producer or higher. And but you know what's really interesting is we have top producers on our show. That's all we pretty much ever have on Keeping It Real. And I'll ask them off air, like, how often does somebody call you from your brokerage and say, hey, where are you struggling right now? You know, and with Corded, it would actually give you a good sense of maybe where that is. But even if the managing broker just called their top agent and said, hey, where are you struggling? Everyone's struggling somewhere. Let me help you solve that. Like, that would probably do so much for retention. But now you could just flip that around and a recruiter could just use that same script and hopefully, build that relationship. I'm shocked at how many top agents do not get those calls, either from recruiters or from their own managing broker. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I think part of it is due to the information that their managing broker or their manager has at their disposal, right? The top agents, they move so quickly. They have so much going on in their ecosystem that if they were to check on what's happening to this top agent on a weekly basis, it could already be too late, right? Because they have so many other priorities that are happening. So you're right. It's interesting, and a lot of the times with our data, it's little tweaks here and there. Hey, interesting. I saw that 45% of your production has come in this county versus last year it was in the subsequent county 2 miles away. How can we help you double down over here, right? It's so interesting.
I'll give you a fun. It's not necessarily a success story, but it is in a sense. So I had somebody reach out to me last week who is at a different firm, is likely not to move at all because she is in love with her managing broker. In fact, her managing broker left one firm to go to another. She went right with her, and she's that tied in. So she's probably not going to move, and that's okay. But what was amazing is she called me and we were talking about the podcast. She's one of our big fans, and I was asking her, like, okay, you're a top producer, so tell me, what do you want more of, less of on the show? And then I said, hey, just out of curiosity, what kind of recruiting calls do you get? And I wanted to get more information about that. And she's like, yeah, I don't really get that many. Even though she's a big producer. But what I thought was so interesting about her in particular is that she had said about listening to like a show like ours. She's like, I love when you guys have on top producers because I get to learn more from them. But she goes, DJ, you called me a year ago. And I said, I did. I didn't even remember her, because she goes, you left me a voicemail. You talked about some stat. I can't remember what, but it was something really impressive. I know I got it from Corded because it's the only place I get stats. She said, you left me this voicemail. And yeah, I'm not going to move because I love my managing broker, but you're the only person that ever called me with that information. And we'd never talked before. And this is the first time we've ever talked. And she goes, I remember that call. She goes, that call was important to me. And she goes, I'm not going to move. But I said, hey, I get it. But would you tell other agents about, me? And she's like, absolutely. She's like, if you're doing that for your own agents, like, that is really cool. So like, even that, where the person's not going to move, she's like, I will refer people to you, which is incredible, from another brokerage. So that's how powerful this data is. You're giving somebody this like love letter almost, but it's not just a generic one. It's like, I know about your business, even though you might not know me. So
and we've heard that story so many times, DJ, right? And how many times in recruiting is it a one-call close? Rarely,
never.
Right? and the landscape changes all the time. But if you could, we always say, if you could be the first one to provide that level of detail, personalization, and oh, we're back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. A little technical glitch.
All good. No, all I was suggesting was if you could be the first person to provide that level of I see you, multiple times. The
Yes.
landscape changes all the time. We have so many folks who say, hey, first time I reached out to this particular agent was 22 months ago. Reach out to them again, 6 months ago, and they actually just called me back, and that they'd never seen anything like that before. I'm actually going to come on over because something changed in their world. So it's all in the follow up and just being genuine and being yourself.
I have a friend, I won't mention where this person lives, but she's a she has to be close to 300 million this year. I don't know because I don't see her production, but I know that's what she was at 250 last year, and she was just going up. So anyway, 250 plus, let's just say. And she's a listener of our show, and so I'll ask her from time to time, just because we've become friends. I'll say, hey, just out of curiosity, because I'm always wanting to know how those people get recruited. I said, how often do you get a call from your own brokerage celebrating you? I know they give her some award every year, and obviously probably give her some leads here and there, whatever, but she does it pretty much all herself. And I said, how often does your brokerage call you and say, hey, what can we do for you? Like, where are you struggling? And she just said, oh, never. And she likes her brokerage. She's not going to move, but she goes, nobody ever does that. I said, really? She goes, they just kind of leave me alone. She goes, I would love it if somebody were to call me with that question. And again, that's a $250 million agent. And that is it's shocking that somebody like that, who's a super nice person, she's not somebody that you wouldn't want to talk to. So it's shocking that her own brokerage, which is a good brokerage as far as I can tell, isn't even doing that. So it's like, wow, the bar is pretty low here. Like, you don't have to do that much to really impress somebody. And in the same vein, you just flip it. You don't have to do that much to retain people. You just do the same thing. You congratulate them, you help them where they're struggling. And what I love is Corded does that. I just one last question for you. This is about the industry, and I don't know if you have a take on it or not, but we're seeing, mergers happening. We had Compass, they acquired Anywhere, or they're in the process of acquiring Anywhere. There's a consolidation that's happening. And I'm curious, are you and your team, are you seeing recruiting changing with some of these big mega mergers? Or do you think there's only going to be a handful of firms, in a few years? Is that going to just continue to happen, or any thoughts on that?
I could speak to it from the recruiting lens.
Yeah.
I think what we've learned, especially over the last 12 to 18 months, and even over the last 60 days, is that brokerages need to be very certain of their value props and very defined in how they want to operate from a cultural perspective.
Yeah.
When there are these big behemoths, out there, excuse me, you have to be secure in who you are and confident in what you can provide, and then deliver, beyond that, right? And then be a testament to what your agents are saying about you. It's all your word on the street, but I always think consolidation creates opportunity, and majority just in terms of quantity, right? Number of brokerages throughout the country, not number of sales volume, so to speak. There are more mom and pop, indie, regional, town specific brokerages than maybe there are of that level in any industry I could think of in the country.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it creates a lot of opportunity for them. And I know that when a couple of large players come together, there's always folks who say don't particularly want to be a part of an enormous organization, and they love the mom and pop home cooked feel, which I think could create a decent amount of opportunity. Not to mention, I'm a little biased. This is now the third small company in New York, or fourth, I've been a part of. We always move very quickly, very, very quickly. And if we do that for our people, I think that some of the, call it independent or regional shops out there would be able to accentuate the fact that, hey, there's not a lot of red lines, there's not a lot of red tape. Let me know what you need, and I get it to you in 5 minutes, which I think is really strong to communicate.
Yeah, I think this is the superpower that the smaller firm can use, that maybe they don't compete on the name. Maybe the brands that are bigger just have some more pull there, and that makes sense. And they spend a lot of money on branding and marketing, and that's great. And so these indie brokerages, really, if they use Corded, they now have data that's maybe the managing broker, even at the bigger firm, isn't a subscriber of Corded, or just doesn't use it because they're just constantly getting people in. And this is the superpower that the indie broker should have. It's really like, this is how to level the playing field, because you might not be able to compete with some of the cool shiny stuff that the bigger firms have, but you have the data that they may have, but odds are, they might not be using it effectively. So this is a great opportunity. So I just, one last thing. What do you
Yeah.
think anyone who's a broker owner or a team, again, this is perfect for team leads, when it comes to recruiting or retention, what's one thing that that people who are recruiting or retaining could do this week that would increase their either recruiting or retention?
Make 10 calls a day. I love picking up the phone. At our company, we call them coldies. We're picking up the phone, and instead of cold calling, we're doing a couple of coldies. 10 calls a day, 5 in the morning when you're having a cup of coffee, 5 in the evening when you're driving home, have them preloaded in your phone. The, say, 70 calls between now and next Friday, that's 99% ahead of anyone who's in your area anyway, right? That's the number one, your fundamental difference that anyone could make. When, hey, what do I want to do? I want to recruit. It's very easy to drop a ton of names into a Constant Contact or a MailChimp, right? The more you pick up the phone, the less it feels like a brick, and the easier it is for you to really understand what agents in your market are feeling like.
Yeah, and whether you're recruiting or retaining, you're just saying, I see you, you're important, I care enough about you to tell you you're doing great or ask if you need help. That's everything. I mean, brokers, we call them brokers. We'll say real estate agents, because in Illinois, everyone's a broker. But this is what everybody wants from their firm. They just want to be cared for and somebody to care enough about their business to actually reach out, whether offering a solution or offering support or celebration. So you're right. Make those calls.
And I always joke, agents or brokers, they're just like us. Their phone is in their hand for most of the day anyway, right? So why not? They don't have to check their email. They just need to feel, the phone buzz or listen to it ring, and they want to have conversations.
Well, and I always say too, you don't really have to worry, because if they don't want to pick it up, they're going to let it go to voicemail anyway. You're probably not going to have a negative reaction, because if the person's not interested in talking, they'll either let you know when they answer or they'll just let it go to voicemail. And then again, you could be so incredibly professional on a voicemail and so customized to their production, you can impress them just with a voicemail. And like that woman who reached out to me and said, you called me and left a voicemail. So anyway, Jason, I want everybody who is either recruiting or retaining, maybe you're building a team, maybe you already have a team, maybe you're a broker owner who is looking to add more people to the firm, and you really want, and what's really cool we didn't talk about is the amount of dialing in you can do to really find the exact agent you're looking for. Is the amount of filters that are available in Corded, where you can actually dial up the exact agent avatar that you specifically want for your team or your brokerage is truly incredible. Like, we didn't even touch that, and that is one of the coolest features, because if I said I want to find everyone that's a $3 million producer who does deals in this area and has been at their brokerage for more than 4 years and has been in the business for less than 6 years, or whatever my criteria is, I can do that and I instantly have a list. It's incredible. So check out Corded. You guys do demos. Corded.io is where you go for that, and check out all their tools. It's just totally changed the recruiting game, and you'll really be far ahead of everybody if you consider using their tool. So yeah, follow them on Instagram, which is corded.io. You can check out Jason on Instagram as well, Jason Caspert, Caspert. We'll have links to all of this in the show notes. But Jason, we so appreciate you being on the show, and this was, again, this has changed my life as a recruiter. It's made my life better, and it's made my calls more fun, because now I'm not pitching anything anymore. I mean, ultimately, I want somebody to join us, but I just lead with value, and then I get curious, and that's all I do. And you guys have all the data that I can do that with. So it's truthfully, I owe you a huge debt of gratitude, because if this didn't exist, the other tools really just don't do that. at least not as effectively as you guys. So thank you. But on behalf of the audience, Jason, thank you. We appreciate your time and your insight. And also on behalf of Jason and myself, want to thank our audience. We appreciate you for sticking around to the end. Please tell your managing broker about this episode. They need to hear this. And if you know any teams, they need to hear this as well. So send them a link. We appreciate it. We're everywhere podcasts are served. Thank you to our sponsors as well. And we will see everybody on the next episode. Thanks, Jason.